Good morning. Welcome back to Morning at 10 TV, and we are on the solution segment. And the big discussion today is sexuality education in our schools. Are we ready for this? In March, the Ministry of Education approved the National Sexuality Education Framework, which officials say it has been developed for over 2 years, and this has been done through consultations, wide consultations with the different stakeholders, among that being the church. And yesterday we saw the big story on the dailies being bishops rejecting the sexuality education, meaning there's a lot of controversy. But when we went on the ground, before we went on the break, we had Andrew Chamagero on the ground, who was having views from the members of public who are actually embracing this particular framework. And so in studio, to disseminate all that information, to break down the framework and what it means and how it's going to be implemented, is Mr. Ismail Mulindwa, who is the Assistant Commissioner, Private Schools and Institutions Department. Welcome to the show.
Okay, thank you, madam.
Thank you so much. There's a great misconception about this particular framework, and I'd like you to break it down for us. Is it sex education or sexuality education?
Great, madam. Good morning, viewers. I want maybe to make one correction. I'm Commissioner in charge of private schools and institutions.
Yes.
And I coordinate the unit that is responsible for this framework. So the misconception I want to clear is that the framework we are talking about does not talk about sex education.
Thank you.
The framework is about sexuality education. We should draw the line between the two. Sexuality is the wholesome being of a human being,
Yes.
either as a man or a woman. Sex education is teaching somebody how maybe to go about with sex, which is not within our framework. It's not, we can make mention of it, but it's not the framework. The framework doesn't talk about sex education. So that one should be very clear.
Okay.
Many people have been saying, including even some of our colleagues, some of our reporters, you hear them saying they're teaching children how to go about sex, okay, gadanga. No, that's not the point.
Yes.
We are not teaching about sex, but we are teaching this young girl, this young boy, his well-being as a boy and as a girl. The way one talks, the way one walks, the way one connects him or herself, it has to do with his or her sexuality.
Correct.
So the point here should be clear that the ministry came up with a framework on sexuality education.
What informed this particular framework to be formulated by the Ministry of Education? I know part of it is we already have high teenage pregnancies, and we are speaking of the rate of around 25 and above percent, and that's a great percentage of young girls getting pregnant. And is it just that, or other factors as well, STIs and all these other things? What was the core of informing this particular framework?
Great manner, you have it right.
Yes.
This framework should have come maybe 5 or 10 years back. When you see what is happening, things have changed. We are no longer in the 60s. Many things have changed in our environment, even within our bodies. You remember in our past, girls used to go into menstrual periods at the age of 15 or above.
Yes.
Things have changed.
Things have changed.
I want to draw a picture here, maybe to explain why we went for this. As we talk, the majority of our girls go into menstruation at the age of 13, many of them.
Yes.
And you know, it has even improved scientifically. Some of them go into menstruation as early as 9. And what does it mean? When somebody goes into menstruation, then should she play around, the next thing is becoming what? Pregnant.
Correct.
Right? Our teenage pregnancy is oscillating around between 24 and 25. The highest in the region here. In this African region, we have the highest teenage pregnancy. Another thing, 28% of those who are sexually active and they are in school they are in school, 25%, they are sexually active. But out of this number, 80% of these become pregnant. So once you involve into sex, automatically the next thing
is pregnancy.
Is a pregnancy. And what does it mean? It doesn't even stop there. When one becomes pregnancy, the next thing again is she is going to drop out of what?
School.
Out of school. And we are losing that important resource. That said again, 74% of the children aged between 8 and 18 have reported emotional, sexual violence in our schools.
Yes.
Should we keep quiet about that? These are big percentages, and all this information I'm giving is from UDHS, Uganda Democratic Health Survey.
Yes.
These facts came out. And when they come out and you keep quiet, then you are not doing
what happened? So what happened to the conversation about abstinence? I remember during my time when I was in school, that was the big conversation, even when we were having biology classes and we got to that chapter of reproductive health. That was the big conversation that was being given to us. Abstain, abstain, abstain. It's also the same information that we were being given by our parents at home, even in church. All these other, kind of support frameworks that are around us were just preaching abstinence. What has happened? What has changed now?
Yeah, we cannot just look into one direction and think we are going to solve a problem from that angle. We need to look at many angles. But what we are doing here, again, comes back to that abstinence. Because when somebody gets information and she the dangers to do with playing around with sex, then inevitably one will have to abstain. So what we are doing is promoting exactly that.
Yes.
But in situations where one cannot abstain, then we should be able to give information so that he is guided on how to protect him or herself. So our major concern still stands abstinence. But where the situation goes, is going to be
beyond control.
Yeah, you need to provide an alternative.
Yes.
An alternative in this case, we are providing information. We are giving information. You know, when you are giving information, you are armed to confront any challenge that comes your way. And many of our children are fallen victims of sexual violence, of pregnancy and even dropping out of school just because they don't have information. And
it's not just pregnancy, it's also STIs.
Yeah, STIs.
STDs.
Yeah. In fact, again, the statistics here show 29% of those who are sexually active have got STIs.
Yeah.
And STIs means what? One of which is this deadly STI, which is HIV/AIDS.
Yes.
Yeah. We have even some worrying statistics about our children in school who are HIV positive. And why many of them confess, they say we didn't know. Had I known? So we need really to give them information so that they don't fall into that kind of work.
Sir, let's get down to this information and what the framework actually entails. Let's break it down to the age groups, because I know you will be disseminating it in age-appropriate methods. Let's get into that. What age do we begin with?
No, maybe before we go to this, I wanted to give you some kind of brief on the roadmap. How are we going to move with this framework? Before even we come to the actual implementation, we have the framework in place. And this is merely a framework to guide on how to go about sexuality education. It doesn't have the details in terms of messages, in terms of packages. Right?
It's a framework.
So now what we are doing at the moment, we are working on an implementation plan, which will guide on how we are going to move. That's when now even the age groups can come in.
Okay.
That framework again is going to guide on how we come about with the messages, because that's the critical point, the turning point.
Yes.
The messages we are going to pass on to our children, to these different age groups. And we made a commitment to many of our stakeholders. We said when we come to this point, it will not be Ministry of Education and Sports, like it has been done with this framework, because we consulted widely. We made a commitment and said when it comes to packaging the kind of messages we are taking to our children, we are giving to our children, we shall again come back and sit on a round table and agree with the religious leaders, civil society organizations, with the teachers, with the you people, the media people, and we agree and say this is the package that is befitting this age group. That point hasn't come and is coming when the implementation framework is done. So
bishops should relax.
Yeah, should relax for sure. They shouldn't even be cause for worry.
Yes.
Because I wanted even to advise my colleague, the monitor colleague, that the headline, I think it was so sensational. It should have been maybe put the other way. Because the bishops are not rejecting, incidentally. The bishops are appreciating what we have done.
Yesterday they were saying they have over 800 schools that they man. And they were saying that until we are clear on how this framework will be implemented and how this information will be disseminated to our children, we are not in agreement.
And Mara, that's critical. That's very important. Until when? They are not saying it should never.
It's a no-no. They're not saying it's a no-no.
They are saying until when we are clear on how we are going to move. And it's our role here as a ministry to sit with them and harmonize. We need really, we need to accept over 70% of the schools in this country belong to faith-based organizations.
Right.
So there's no way we can ignore them. These are key stakeholders in this. So when they raise concern, we need to listen. However, we did consult, and we consulted widely. All these faith-based organizations were consulted. But that said, of course, maybe in the course of going towards implementing this framework, they might have noticed one or two things which were not fixed. So we are saying we shall come on the round table and harmonize. And I think they're also agreeing on this.
Yes.
And it's normal, Mara, in any kind of discussion. You have divergent views. So they have their concerns, one or two, like it was reported in the dailies, which we hope we are going to sit with them and address them.
My question to you, and you've already alluded to the fact that you still haven't gotten to the implementation phase of it.
Yes.
But from where you sit, I'm sure you have foreseen how it's going to go, maybe just a rough picture of it. How is it going to be implemented? Will we have girls in schools being set apart to be taught by a female teacher on sexuality education and boys we put apart with their own male teachers to be taught? How is it going to run, just roughly?
Again, Mara, the implementation plan is going to clarify on this.
Yes.
Because we need even to look at the teacher. Is the teacher ready, prepared really to do this? All right? But then there's a critical issue we need to agree on. Is it going to be standalone or integrated into our curriculum?
Okay.
So if it is integrated, even if it is a standalone, you cannot say a female teacher, the one who's going to handle the girls, and the male teacher, the boys. No, the teachers have to be oriented. We need to retool to prepare the teachers to be able to teach, regardless of your sex or what. You can teach all. Me, I'm a biology teacher, incidentally, professional.
Oh, okay.
And I used to teach biology, teach the reproductive system. I never taught to boys only and leave out the girls. So you have raised a very serious point. The teacher. The teacher is at the center of this. We need to prepare this teacher so that he's able to handle this sexuality education.
Right.
And the sexuality. In fact, that's why you are saying, should we expect maybe a female teacher to teach the girls and what? You are thinking is that maybe she is going to teach the singer part of it. No. There are quite a number of things. There are quite a number of skills one has to get. You don't need to get these skills from maybe your sex mate, like a female or a male. No.
You can get it from whatever gender, provided the teachers are well-trained.
Is well-trained.
My worry is in the rural setting where culture is still strong. Do you feel like the male teachers in the rural areas will accept? And still, just a few weeks ago, we were having a discussion where teachers who are having power you know, power over the students are taking advantage of that power. Just yesterday in Makerere University, the 6 probe was out, and it was seen that many lecturers are taking advantage of the power they have over the students to sexually harass them. Do you think it will get to that point? Because I personally, if I was in the rural setting, I wouldn't be comfortable with my daughter being taught sexuality education by a male teacher.
And why? What are we going to teach? That's very important.
Yes.
Yeah? Before you get worried, get to know what this teacher is going to pass on. I'll give an example.
Yes.
You have mentioned, for example, the university students. That's a very serious issue.
Yes.
And that's where such kind of frameworks are required. This little girl, whom you think is now mature in a university, does not know even how to protect herself, does not know how to go around with her sexuality environment. She doesn't know. Otherwise, if this one got skills to a point of saying, you should be able to say no.
Yes.
Eh? Even where you are in need, self-marks, come out and say no. If that little girl, I say little girl,
yes,
because of the way some of these girls behave, at university, cannot say no, what do you expect of a P5, a P7, take my books?
So
you have heard of these stories, take my books.
Yes.
At the end of the day, the little girl is defiant. The little girl should be able to know, to tell the teacher, no, I'll stop here. Let me take them to the staff room.
Or I'll report you.
I'll report you.
Or I run away.
So, yeah, so
Yes.
the package that you are going to give is very critical here. And that's where the worry is. Because we have age groups, which you wanted me to elaborate for you.
Yes.
We have 2 to 5. That's pre-primary. We have, for example, 6 to 9. We have 10 to 12. We have 13 to 16 and above 17. Each category will be given appropriate doses, if I can say.
Okay.
Because we are not opening it all like you are in a market, you say you are free to buy whatever you want.
Yes.
No, even this pre-primary kid, and this used to be to happen during our time. We are not teaching her sexuality education. In fact, the word sexuality will not even apply to. But what we are saying, and it used to happen in your homes, you see these little girls, you have visitor there, then one comes and sits on the laps, and you are not bothered. At the end of the day, it happened in Kajansi, and it was shown on your TV stations. And by the time the person left, the kid was bleeding. That kind of thing. You have seen many who are defiled and killed and dropped in bushes.
Yes.
And we are keeping quiet. And these TVs, your TV here, others are showing these pictures. Very disturbing pictures. And we are keeping quiet. Shouldn't we, isn't it the time for us to come out and give this little girl some skills? Whether, even if she's pre-primary, what you say, when the visitors come, greet, and go back and read your.
Yes.
Don't sit on the laps of your.
And what's the role of parents? Because, like you're saying, it's totally true. Nowadays, we trust too much.
And by the way, if you go to know the principles, the centrality of the family is one of the principles in this.
Okay.
The family. However, many of our families, you know the challenges.
Yes.
They are broken. They are not there. They are there in words. People will wake up as early as 5. They leave their kids in beds, and they are leaving them with the maids. I have a personal experience. Where a kid of my sister who was abused by a maid who was a girl.
Yes.
Can you imagine this? And
Sorry about
the
that.
girl was keeping quiet. By the time we discovered it was almost too late. Shouldn't we? Isn't this the time to give information? So
just for people to know, this framework will be big on equipping the young people with skills on how they can protect themselves. Exactly.
Harriet, a sweet here. She comes, picks out and she goes with somebody she doesn't know. Could be a neighbor or what. Because these things happen. By the way, the uncles in homes, can you imagine? It's the uncles. It's uncles, close family relatives that are doing this. The teachers. Can you imagine they are doing this? Yeah. Should we keep quiet? No. A little girl will be just with a sweet, you come. And she follows. Why don't you tell this little girl? No, never accept a sweet.
Yeah.
You are not telling the girl that you have to use a condom or what. This is a pre-primary. Is it relevant to
yes.
to him?
Yes. Let's talk about the out-of-school pupils. We have very many young people who do not go to school for one reason or the other. And it doesn't mean that they're not faced with these sexuality challenges. How is the ministry going to reach out to them?
Yeah, our mandate, of course, is with that student in school, a pupil in what? In school. That's where our mandate stretches.
Okay.
But when it comes to out of school, that's now Ministry of what? Ministry of Gender. However, we have worked with the Ministry of Gender on this framework. We have worked as a team. And the information we're having, they were trying also to prepare a framework for the out of what?
Out of school children.
But we think at a certain point we shall have to sit together and harmonize and have one framework which caters for both in school and out of what? And out of school. So they are not left out. Ministry of Gender is doing something around that. And even this very framework can be adapted to situations of those who are out of what? Out of school. So they are not totally left out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that conversation. We will be bringing you back after we get the implementation plan out so that you can just enlighten us as parents, as members of the public.
Just one point. We need really to know. I've tried to give some kind of a background to this framework.
Yes.
But one important thing we need to know that this is one of the targets in the SDGs.
Yes.
That's an international commitment. Somebody may look at Uganda and say, it's Uganda. No. And for those, they are talking about even comprehensive
sexuality education. Yes.
In our case, we said, no, we are not going comprehensive. Ours is sexuality education.
Customized for our needs in Africa.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Because should not go by what is happening in South Africa, what is happening in America. No. We have our, and it's based on our religious, cultural, and national values. That's where our framework is based.
Okay.
Is there a need even for the client to get worried?
So you should all relax.
Yeah, we should relax.
Okay.
And we shall keep in the room. We shall keep talking to them.
Yeah.
And I know very soon we're going to reach
okay. Yeah. We'll bring you back so you can share with us the information of the implementation. That's what we are yearning to listen to. How is it going to be, rolled out in schools? How is it going to be disseminated to the different age groups in the primary schools?
We have to sit with the religious people.
Yes.
When we are crafting the messages, and when we are finalizing the implementation.
So all stakeholders will come on board.
Have to be on board.
Okay.
Like we have done with this framework.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Great.
Let's keep the conversation going. Are you for this? Are you against it? I hope you've gotten all the information now. He'll still come back to tell us how it's going to be implemented, how this information will be disseminated to the different age groups. Keep it Morning at 10 TV.